People talk a lot about system prompt, tweaking the prompt, or choosing different model. What's the best model out there? One of our hard-earned lessons is I spend so much time on context engineering with the teams. Let me explain what context means, right? So in my role, I build AI agents in these different industries. And these agents are kind of used by 2 billion customers around the world.
Talk to me about what agents you've been building.
So in general, there are two classes of agents that I've been working on. One is agents for productivity. So internally, we built a tool called Tokan. You know about it. This tool is used by 15,000 users internally at Prosus. And these are people from finance, designers, product managers, engineers, and people use it for different things. So we started building this tool 3 years back. The technology has evolved so much. Initially, we did a lot of things to make the LLM work so that, there was an intent detection at the beginning and so on. It blows my mind that, now you don't need, like the model itself is so better that you don't need these things. So, sorry. So one category is tools for agents for productivity. So Tokan. Second is agents for e-commerce. And there, I have experience in building agents for online shopping assistant. So OLX is one of our portfolio companies. So with OLX, we built a shopping assistant. The idea is that it helps understand the user intent. So you can say that, I want the latest headphone, or, I'm going for a hiking trip and I don't know what to buy. Help me. So it can take very broad requests from the user, understand, connect to the OLX catalog. So that's an example. And currently, I'm working on a project in our food delivery business where we are kind of reimagining how people would order food in next year or 2 years, where things like not. So usually, if you think about how people order food right now, they go on the search bar, you enter burger, right? But how about it also? You can go and you can say that I want to have a romantic dinner with my wife. And then it understands you, it connects to the catalog and so on.
Okay, so we've got 4 themes that we want to touch on.
Yeah.
First one, which is on everyone's mind, is the context engineering piece. You've got some takes on that.
Yeah, totally. So Andhra Kapati recently published a tweet where he said that he likes the word context engineering more than prompt engineering. And, I was reading it, and in my experience in building these agents, I spent so much time together with the engineering teams working on the context. So I was completely, as soon as the moment he published the post, I think the context engineering word got viral. And when I think about context engineering, it reminds me of the day with, when, data engineering, data scientist. I was a hands-on data scientist at some point in my career. And, we always said that, data science or AI is the shiny thing. But, if you're garbage in, garbage out, if you don't work on your data. Context engineering for me is like that. We are doing a podcast. I see people talking on Twitter on different podcasts, and people talk a lot about system prompt, tweaking the prompt, or choosing different model. What's the best model out there? Recently about MCP tools and so on. But for example, if you take about the latest models, if you think about the latest models, for my use case, it's not really about that model. If I use model A versus model B, and if both of them are state of the art, they already do a good job. What makes the difference between A and B is A is with context, B is without context, then A would be much better than B. And let me explain what context means, right? So a lot of times, so imagine a food delivery chatbot. Aside from people asking for food, when you put a chatbot in wild, people ask about many different things, right? Imagine, you want to order food.
Free food. That's what I would instantly
exactly,
do.
Exactly. So different people care about different things. So there are people who care a lot about free food, cheap food, promotions. There are people who care about maybe you have a particular coupon or your payment card. So a lot of time people come to a chatbot, they say that, okay, do you accept this payment card? Show me sushi on promotions right now. Or maybe it's lunchtime and or let's say maybe it's breakfast time and I am asking for pizza and none of the pizza places are open. And you don't know about my use case as a user. Maybe I'm an executive assistant, I'm planning already for lunch, or maybe I want to have pizza. So in this case, for example, the opening and closing hour of a restaurant becomes the context. So if your LLM or if your agent doesn't know about that, then we have tried this before where if your agent is just good at searching for pizza and it doesn't know about the opening closing hour, it doesn't know about the promotion, it doesn't know about the payment information. If you put it in real world, it's not useful for people because I care about a lot of these things. Users care about a lot of these things. So one of our hard-earned lessons is I spend so much time on context engineering with the team. So, I cannot stop talking about that
Yeah,
topic.
and I don't want to brush over. There's a few different places where it's a very difficult problem that you were just saying when it comes to ordering the food and the promotions, for example. And you were saying that it's not like there's a database that you can query that has all the most up-to-date promotions.
Yeah.
So the data challenge in real time, knowing what promotions are live from what companies, and then feeding that into the context window is where the real challenge is. And it's almost, I look at it a little bit like when you're crafting that prompt, you put in variables, and getting the proper data into those variables is the unsexy job of the data engineer, or it's more data engineering like than anything. But now I guess we're calling it context engineering.
I think we all agree that most of the enterprise data, it might look good from outside, but it's messy. So unfortunately, if you go in an enterprise, it's not like there's a database where you can say just give me everything on promotion. So a lot of data is real time. Maybe a restaurant is running a real time promotion during lunch from 12 to 3 on sushi, right? It's very difficult for a database to have that. So a lot of that information is in real time databases. It's scattered over different databases. So the unsexy work here is that I have data engineers in the team, who spend a lot of time kind of connecting all this. So imagine now a user request comes in and they say, show me sushi on promotion. You kick in these data pipelines, you bring the right context, you make it a part of the prompt, and then the response that you get is what the response that the user wants to hear.
And there's not a way to do this with search that is more simple.
No. So search is the next topic I want to talk about, but search solves a different problem. Search is more about, for me, search is about when you're searching for dishes or when you're searching for restaurants. That's what so burger, vegetarian burger, pizza, or McDonald's. But when you're searching for, does McDonald's have promotion? Does McDonald's accept payment card? Is McDonald's open right now? That is context. So that's the difference for me between search and context. Context is made up of 4 things, in my opinion. So I spoke about one of them. There's another one which I want to cover.
One of them being the dirty data, getting it the right context when.
Yeah. It's composed of 4 things. 2 of them are simple. Everyone talks about it. System prompt, user message. And I think we have heard enough about, you need to have the best system prompt. User message is the dynamic message the user sends. So you put that in the prompt as well. We already spoke about, bringing the enterprise context, the dirty data pipeline. And the 4th context, which is very important, is user history. And this is where, for example, it's connected to memory. So, there's been a lot of discussion on long-term memory, short-term memory. The way I think about is, there are so many Gen AI agents, products out there. Imagine, everyone is building a shopping assistant. Everyone is building a food ordering assistant. If even I think about me as a user, I don't have a loyalty for a particular product. I'm using ChatGPT today. I'm using another product next day. For me, something that creates stickiness to a product is if that product knows about me. So if I'm using ChatGPT as an example for last 15 days, and now you give me a new tool, I would use it unless ChatGPT knows so much about me that, okay,
the switching cost is higher.
Yeah, the switching cost is high. And that comes from memory. And that is also part of context where you put the user history as part of context.
Yes, it's funny you mentioned that because somebody said when they were joining the community, they were very interested in the problem set of being able to port that memory and that context from one provider to the next.
Yeah, that's amazing. If you do that, then you could switch, right?
Yeah.
Because if you do that,
but it's not like you can just hit like download CSV and then upload it to the next
Plus,
provider.
I think there's a lot of data privacy issue comes with that because it contains a lot of information about you, which you might want to share or not. And again, one last point there is, so I'm sure you have seen these diagrams that people share about memory, long-term memory, short-term memory, episodic memory, and so on. So memory can be handled in many different ways. It's almost like, when you're having a conversation, maybe there's a model which is running behind the scene. It's noting facts, and that's a part of memory. But to be honest, one of the things that we tried, which is much simpler than any of this, and it works, is let's say you're building a shopping assistant or a food ordering bot, and you already have a product, right? So there's already OLX or iFood. So there's already users who are on OLX who did not have conversation yet, who are on iFood.
You've got that data.
You got the data. You already know what food they ordered. You already know what items they browsed. You can easily use that as a simple cold start context. And I have seen that create wonders where, when you launch your product, you don't need to be, my advice here would be when you launch your product, because there's already so many things to solve, and, your obsession should be about product market fit and, not having the best technical solution out there. You should just use the context that you have from your existing app and put that in the memory, put that in, the context or the system prompt, and that already does wonder. That will give you a runtime of 3 months, and then you start, when people start having conversation more, they start using your product more, then you get some dynamic memory. But I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned, where I think the way people think about it already from day one, it's complicated. There's a simple solution to cold start.
Okay, so that is context engineering.
Yeah, that is context engineering. That's it.
Search.
Search is such a, so my experience has been building AI agents in e-commerce, shopping, food, and search is a fundamental tool when it comes to that. It doesn't apply for all the AI agents out there. Let's say if you're building an AI agent for supplier side, for a car dealer or, for a restaurant, search is not that important. But when you're building an e-commerce agent, search is the most fundamental thing. It's actually the start of the user journey. If you don't get the search right, let's say if I search for burger and if I get pizza, I drop at that point. It breaks the trust. Maybe you have other tools to manage my cart, to do other things, but I will never go further in the journey. So search is very important. And I spend a lot of time with the engineering team on, fixing search. Let me talk about a few things that, we have learned. So most of the enterprise search is still keyword based. And, not to put it down, it's for the right reason, because keyword based works. If I say burger, there's a taxonomy defined for burger, and, show me burger. You don't need fancy semantic search to do that. So keyword based works. But if you imagine people searching on a search bar versus people talking to an agent, the chatbot you put out there, the kind of conversation, and especially when you have voice enabled, the way people express themselves to an agent, to a chatbot, is so different. The kind of queries are so different. I would go and I would say that, I'll already give these examples, right? I want to have a romantic dinner with my wife. Press enter. Very, very broad. Or if I'm building a shopping assistant, we have seen people just go and say that I'm going for a hiking trip. I am a beginner. I don't know what to buy. Help me. Or help me furnish my house. These are the kind of queries that you get. And you cannot deliver these queries with keyword search. So we spend a lot of time thinking about first semantic search. And semantic search is not new. It has been around. It's a search based on embeddings. So for the search engineers out there, they're already standard way of doing these things. Semantic search is hard. It's still hard to crack, and keyword search is still important. So most of the time, the solution is something hybrid, where you get a query, you look if a keyword search can answer it. If not, you go to semantic search. So it's not new, but it's difficult, and we spend a lot of time talking about it. So let me explain that with an example. When I say, so I'm vegetarian. When I say vegetarian pizza, if I have keyword search, then I would get items that have vegetarian pizza mentioned either in their title or description. But a pizza margherita, that's vegetarian. Maybe, it's not obvious to mention vegetarian in the title of pizza. Maybe the restaurant person did not mention it. And then all of a sudden, pizza margherita will not. So this is keyword search. This is the limitation of keywords. Now, let's say you move to semantic search. This can be solved with semantic search, because then you have embeddings, and then pizza margherita embedding is very close to the embedding of vegetarian. It's solved. Now, let's say, come to the example that I say romantic dinner. That itself, that cannot be solved. So romantic, what is the embedding for romantic? Romantic is different for you. Romantic is different for me. That cannot be solved by semantic. And we see a lot of these queries which are broad. which are ambiguous, very fuzzy. So this is where, again, semantic search is the first layer, but we spend a lot of time building a pipeline of search where when these queries come in, you have a step before search and you have a step after search. The step before search, we call it query understanding, query personalization, query expansion, call it whatever, where again, you use an LLM. So you already have an LLM for the agent, but let's say now you have search as one of the tools. Within that tool, you have a pipeline where the first step of the pipeline is already using an LLM to understand the query. So a romantic dinner, it understands, and maybe if it has my user profile, it says, this is what romantic means for Nishi, or romantic in general, an LLM says that, okay, let's break it down into, I don't know, cupcake is romantic, and so on.
Candlelit.
Yeah.
Come on, cupcake. What the hell kind of romance are you talking about?
We have different definitions of romance.
Apparently. I mean, out of all the ways that I would describe romantic dinner, cupcake was not one of them.
I hope my wife is not listening to this, but yeah, guilty as charged. So anyway. Yeah. So there's a query, there's a query understanding step, which breaks down your query maybe into multiple queries. Then you run it through your search pipeline, keyword search, semantic search. Then there's a re-ranking step where again you use an LLM where initially you get a lot of candidates. Then this is re-ranking is again, re-ranking is an old concept from the machine learning world where we had these algorithms, LTR, learning to rank, and so on. But in the new world of LLM, so those algorithms are still important, but they also, in my experience, I've seen them fail when it comes to these new kind of queries where you have a lot of context from the user. And there you can have another re-ranking layer where again you use an LLM. You say that, okay, this was the query from the user. These are the 1,000 responses from the first two steps. This is the context about the user. Re-rank, what is, and then you get these 3 or these 10 options that you present to the user. So that's what our typical pipeline looks like. And again, I can't stress it enough. It sounds simple, but search is something that has haunted me in each of my projects. It's difficult. It's messy.
It feels like a new paradigm of search too, or just like a building on what was already there and trying to leverage the new technology of LLMs.
Yeah, totally. Now with all the advancements in LLM, generative AI agents, like agentic search and LLM helping in search and LLM augmenting search. So not replacing, but semantic search is still important, but doing some steps, things before, things after. So that's the new paradigm. And so you're right, like search is really being reinvented with LLMs. And I think very few people talk about it, but if you're building an e-commerce agent, search is fundamental, and it's very important to crack that.
Yeah. Let's talk UI.
Let's talk UI first.
Let's talk UI.
Let's talk UI. Okay. So again, I have launched many agents, many GenAI experiences, and typically the way we launch them is we A/B test, and I have burned my hands so many times. It's there's a lot of pain there. That I'll give you an example. We want to build online shopping assistant. The first thing we do is let's build a chat GPT for everything, right? So let's build a conversational experience. We build that. We test it internally. I tested it. I spent a lot of time, long hours at night. It's super interesting. It knows you. It's connected to the catalog. You say that, I want to furnish my house. It shows you furniture. It shows you, chairs, sofas, separate sections, and so on. It's beautiful. It works. You're so excited that
you're also so benevolent when you're using it, right?
Yeah.
You aren't thinking like, how can I prompt this to give me free furniture? You're thinking, how can I prompt this to get the right furniture? You also know what prompting is, so you probably explain it differently.
Totally.
So I'm already seeing how this is going to fail miserably.
Yeah, totally. So we are so excited. I'm so excited. We launch it. We think we build the best product out there. We launch it. We A/B test it. Our test, it really falls flat on our face.
Nosedive.
We are really I'm refreshing the results, and it's terrible. It's not even it's not even bad. It's terrible. Then you think
but it's terrible because of nobody's using it, or the way that they're
people are using it, but they don't like it.
And they're giving you that feedback right away, or
you don't immediately get feedback, but you can
bounce off of
you
the
can
app?
measure the conversion numbers. So A and B. So that's the magic of A/B testing, right? So you have a conversion number on A, you have a conversion number on B. and you can see the conversion
You're like, something's
numbers.
broken on this
Yeah,
data.
you look at you look at the agent, and everything is amazing. It's still amazing. So why does it not work?
Oh,
So, and this has happened. Again, I'm talking about failures. It's also important to embrace failures, and this has happened many times. And my learning here, and again, I'm a technologist. I'm not a designer. I'm not a user researcher. So I also learned it the hard way. Is the way I think about it is so there are two dimensions. One is technology. Second is user adoption. Technology, like I feel that technology today is more advanced than the use cases. It was not always like that. So 4 years back, I tried to do a project where I felt that I'm so ambitious with my idea, but the technology is not ready. These days, whenever I try to do a project, I feel technology is few steps ahead. How can I use it? That's the problem. So that's technology. But user adoption is not going at the same pace as technology. Think about it. We all use ChatGPT. ChatGPT, it's been 3 years now, and I think it's been internalized. People are now understanding.
we're learning new ways to use it
Yeah.
every day. We're practicing. Oh, this actually I should ask ChatGPT instead of
Yeah.
just doing what I normally would do, like ask a friend or ask
Yeah.
a doctor.
Yeah. And you and me, we are probably maybe biased sample that, we are both in this field, and, maybe we are in a bubble. But, even my daughter uses it. I see my mom does something with it. When we go in, social circle, people who are not in technology, I see. So it has already kind of penetrated outside. So I won't say that, it's a hype or we're in a bubble. Like, it's going. So chatbots for productivity, chatbots for these kind of use cases, general use cases, it's a thing in the world where we live in today, and more people know about it. But think about it. Do you use a chatbot to buy stuff? I don't. Do you use a chatbot to order food? I don't. And imagine, it's been 3 years. It's surprising. It's surprising, that, and there's so many demos. People are talking about it. We are at Race Summit, the hackathon. People build this stuff. Booking.com, there are these assistants, travel planner, all these ideas in our head. But as users, I eat food, I shop for things, I book flights, I book hotel. But so far, and I'm in this field, I'm obsessed with this technology, but I haven't made a single of this.
And you think that's a UI problem?
I think it's a it's a UI and user adoption problem.
It feels like the UI inadvertently introduces so much friction, and it's not the way that we're used to doing things on the internet for our shopping experience, that we say, you know what, it's easier to do it the way that I know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So after we failed, we did a bunch of user research. By the way, I have a newfound respect for designers and user researchers. I think now I appreciate. So I worked closely with designers, user researchers in the last few years, and I think I understand this field much better now, and a lot of respect. So in fact, these days, when we put together a project, you need a designer and user researcher, because technology is one side. You need to understand. In the end, you want to solve user problem, right? So after the test failed, we did a user research. We did surveys. We called in some users, and some of our learnings. One, so if you're the user, and if I give you, okay, now I give you a new way of doing. So you're familiar with the UI, you use it every day, and now I give you a new UI. It's friction. You will not use it naturally. You will use it if it's really solving a fundamental problem for you. It's something fundamentally different. Maybe something you used to struggle a lot. That, I don't know, maybe you're looking for a house and you had a lot of constraints, and a search bar was, you were not able to define with the filters and search bar. And now if you go, I give you a voice experience and you just spoke to it, and it just understands you, then you use it. But if it's just incremental, if it's a better way of doing search,
Yeah. And it's a whole new interface.
yeah,
That's a pain in the ass.
Yes.
I as a
You would not use
user,
it, yeah?
yeah, I would be pretty pissed too
Yeah.
that you changed the interface on me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what one of our first learning is, that when you give people something new, when you change the UI, it has to be something the value for them has to be and they should know it immediately in the first 30 seconds, that, okay, this is the value for me. Because if they feel that, okay, why am I even doing this? Is it, why don't I just go to search bar and use my
Especially when
filters?
you're trying to introduce AI into it, because it feels like, oh, these guys just want to be able to say to their stakeholders or their stock,
Yeah. Yeah.
what do they call it? The shareholders.
Yeah.
These guys just want to be able to say to their shareholders,
Yeah.
they're using AI, so
Yeah.
the stock
Totally.
price goes up.
It's so important to handhold the users. Often we build tool and we just say, there's the saying, right? So you build, they will come. Doesn't happen. So you build, then you need to handhold. So onboarding, guiding the users. A great example that I always like is, I have Alexa in my house. It's a black box that sits there. It's so inviting. It says, talk to me about anything. Then you talk to Alexa, and out of 10 things I talk to Alexa about, eight it
Don't
fails,
work.
2 works. But then that's a design problem.
Yeah.
So and that's the case also with many conversational chatbots. We say it's a plain screen, right? And plain screen is nice, neat, I like it. But at the same time, if I'm the user and you now give me this thing, and behind the scene there's an agent which can do a lot of things. Maybe there are 20 tools connected to that. I don't know. I didn't build it. So you need to onboard me. You need to guide me. And over the last few years, I've been working with designers, and there are some kind of excellent ways to, and these are not new in the world of design. There are you can maybe when I enter, you can already have some boxes that I can interact with. You can have tooltips as I go. So it can be a guided. It should be a guided journey for the user. So that's a second learning. So I've tried both a chatbot. So immediately go for chatbot. It fails. Then you try UI. You say that, okay, this is the UI. Then let me try a new UI powered by Gen AI. Make it different. There are a few things happening on the screen. It's much more dynamic. That has better results than chatbot, but that's also that is constrained. That's limiting. Chatbot has more flexibility, right? That also doesn't work. So I'm kind of coming to conclusion that the best interface is a mix of UI and chat. So these days, so there's this word that we discuss a lot in our and with my colleagues is the concept of generative UI. Even the UI is generative. Let me first tell you what this means. It's like I'm talking to an agent. I'm having a conversation. Instead of just replying to the conversation, you always present me some UI elements. Sometimes it might be show me some items, some carousels. Sometimes related item and so on. And these UI components can be dynamic. So the agent needs to decide based on my previous message. Maybe, with the design team, I build 10 UI components. And then based on the user request, sometimes you get similar dishes or, similar items or, sometimes item carousel, sometimes something else. And what we are seeing, we still need to test it more. But what we are seeing is that this experience, because, buying is a very visual experience, conversation is very limiting. I just want to sometimes, even me as a user, I want to scroll, I want to click, I want to swipe left, right. I make decision about what I want to eat based on the image. This image makes me feel hungry.
But you're dynamically creating these different widgets on the fly, only depending on the input that I give you from chat, or also if I click on something, then you can show me more like that.
Both.
Okay.
Both. That's a great point.
It feels like that is very mix of traditional machine learning and new agents in a way, because if I'm clicking on something, that's a recommender system problem.
Yep. Totally. If you're clicking on something, that's a recommender system problem. The traditional world still applies, and I think that helps in the, that's how TikTok, for example, TikToks, you're looking at these feeds, you'll swipe left, right, and their recommendation algorithm gets better. But if you think about, if you think about this movie, Iron Man, Jarvis is an assistant who's watching you, what you're doing in that environment. It feels so natural. So we have built, it's still not live, but, it's at a proof of concept where we build an agent who's watching the screen. So it's not just answering you, but it's also watching your actions on the screen. And then it talks back to you, depending on those actions. So whenever you add an item to the cart, it says, so a good choice, or, I knew that you would like this item, or something like that. And that interaction feels so much more natural than you saying everything based on, typing chat, where, it's just watching you. So
it's almost like you having to suck that idea out of your mind and put it into the interface is a lot of friction.
Yep.
And if the agent can just watch you scroll and click, then
Yep.
it can be there with you, and it's much more of a co-pilot experience.
Yeah. And I've seen that in action. We don't have a product live yet, but this is an idea we are playing with right now.
But also the user adoption problem there is, I imagine you're going to get a lot of folks that are like, I don't want you watching everything that I look at.
Yeah.
So there's that trade-off.
Yeah. So we have not cracked it yet. Totally, you're right.
Yeah.
So this is something which we are exploring, and every user is different. So you need to. I don't think there's a silver bullet that I can share.
Yeah, because there are people that are fully okay with that. It's like, if
I'm
you're
fully
gonna
okay with that. My, the way I think about, data privacy, of course, it's important. But, my mentality is that take my data if you can give me value. So if I see value in return, I'm happy to give my data. And different people think differently. Last learning on UI, before we move to next topic, is contextual. So being contextual. So often we try to build a chatbot which is like the solution for everything, right? So we give that as an interface. But one thing that we have seen much more useful is, and this creates a lot of friction because it's a new interface. You don't know the capabilities and so on. You're used to regular interface. So one thing that we have worked better is that imagine your regular UI, and imagine there's a floating button there, and depending on what you're doing, maybe you spend 5 minutes looking for things and looking for items. It pops up at the right time, contextual, and it helps you with a very narrow task, very micro task. I'll give you an example. Maybe I want to buy a headphone, and I'm looking at a headphone, and it pops up. It says, do you want to compare this headphone with the latest headphone from Apple? It's amazing. That's an aha moment for me. If that happens, I would click on that. And you don't need an entire conversation. This opens, and the comparison happens using an LLM. And by the way, that's a very simple, you don't need agent for that. It's a simple LLM call connected with tool.
Well, I guess the hard part is, if you want to put it into a table, dynamically creating that table, and this checks this box, this doesn't check this box.
Especially on a mobile screen, that doesn't look good. But we have designers, and there are different design ways to solve it. There are different design ways to solve it. But the point is, instead of having just a chatbot that does everything and user has no idea about its capability, if you define some micro job to be done, and you help the users at the right time, in our experiments we find that much more effective.
Maybe real fast we can detour into how you make sure it's coming up at the right time and giving you the right suggestions.
This is where evals comes in.
Perfect segue.
Yeah, this is where evals come in. This is again, you can compare it with the traditional world of push notifications. So all of us get these notifications from different apps at different times. I use Domino's app. I like pizza, and Domino's sends me notification. And a lot of times the notifications are bad. So, and if the first few notifications are bad, then you stop. Either you silence them, or even if you receive it, your brain doesn't process it because it's bad. If you get a good notification, if you start with if you have a good start where the notification actually, maybe it's 1:30 p.m. and I'm in a meeting and I'm really hungry, and the app knows that I'm vegetarian, and it pops up that it knows that I like falafel. That's the context. So if it pops up at 1:30 p.m. that Nishi, you haven't had your lunch. I noticed that you haven't had your lunch. I don't know how it will know it, but
you didn't order anything from our app, so we're assuming you haven't had your lunch.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. That's the notification which I would love. So again, I think this is an old problem. It applies to push notifications. It applies to other things, and now it's still true in the world of LLM, where if we pop up contextually. And again, the idea here is to A/B test and try. So the idea is that don't do too much, don't overdo it, don't send 10 messages. But you can, so if we take food as a context, so there's lunch, dinner, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe you optimize, you say that, at the right time, when it's lunch time, you pop up something, and then you use the profile of the person to whatever information you have about the person, to write something which the person can relate to. And again, this is where LLM, we have done some experiments with the LLM, and it does well. But again, no silver bullet. These are few ideas which we are trying, that don't overdo it. And whenever you do it, make it personal. People say don't make it personal. I say make it personal.
I could see how you get people that are, in my case, for example, I'm checking out on one of the apps, looking at some food, and at this particular restaurant, I've already added a few things to my basket, and it says, "Oh, hey, I know you like vanilla milkshakes.
Mhm.
These guys make an incredible vanilla milkshake," and that pops up at just the right time. And do you want to add that to your basket? So again, it just reminds me of like traditional recommender system
Yep.
in a new way. And
Yep.
so it's
Totally.
almost like both with search and with this,
Totally.
you're doing these old tasks that we did in predictive ML.
Totally.
You're just adding an extra layer on top of it to make it even more personalized
Yeah.
and even better, ideally.
We talk a lot about this internally, that the problems are still the same, right? So we are still Netflix organized this recommendation system competition, I don't know, 20 years from now, 10 years from now. So we still talk about recommendation. We still talk about search. And recommendation is not completely solved. Search is not completely solved. Sending notification. So it's the same problems, but now the toys are different. The tools are different. And those tools are helping solve the same problem in a better way.
Yeah. Okay, going back to evals, what is your take on those?
Yep. So when I think about evals, so we talk, Prosus is also an investment firm. So I speak to a lot of founders, and we talk a lot about moat. What is the moat of the product? How do you differentiate your product? And a lot of time, you see people say that people don't share their system prompt. System prompt is moat, and I understand that you spend a lot of time to engineer that. But I believe in evals so much that I think, and I'm not a founder, but if I would be a founder, and if my system prompt leaks, I would not be worried. But if my evals leak, I believe so much in evals, then if I would be a founder someday, I would say that evals is the real moat of your product and not your system prompt. A lot of times when we launch these products, before we launch them, how do you know if it's good enough, right? And again, this is the same problem that you can think of in a regular software engineering world, where you build software, and software development life cycle is much mature now, where there's quality assurance, there's an entire field, quality assurance, testing in production, regression test, and so on. So there's this entire thing. And now with AI applications, and now when the entire product is about AI, we come to this new world where, and especially now, LLMs are non-deterministic. So it's not your regular AI. So how do you know if something is good enough? And we spend a lot of time, we debate a lot. So there are people in the team who disagree, and everyone is passionate, and someone says that, okay, we did not think about this case, it doesn't work. Other people say that, okay, maybe you're being too particular, it works, it generally works 80% of the time. So the answer to that is eval. So you can do that in a systematic way through evals, where the idea is that you build a system to check. Evals is nothing for me, but a system to check if what you built is good enough. That's the first case. Do you launch it? And second, once you launch it, once you start getting real user queries, because it can also degrade. Users can also ask different things which we are not prepared for. Evals is that the traffic light that keeps you informed, so that you can. So there's a part of it which is pre-development, during development, and there's a part of it which happens like in production.
Yeah, I've heard it explained as, again, going back to like traditional predictive ML, you have offline, online. There's like the offline training, batch jobs type thing, and then there's the online, like, boom, real time type of predictions.
So few mistakes which I have made myself, and I see a lot of people make. So I'll talk about that in evals. One, I think it's a mistake to wait for your product to be launched to write your evals, because you want real user data, right? So evals need data. So imagine you have a chatbot, and you need to see how people are using it in the wild. But it's too late already, because you launch it. Maybe your chatbot sucks, and you will know it much later. So this is where we do a lot of simulation, synthetic data generation, where before it goes live, and it doesn't have to be, again, it can be simple. It's like, you get together in the team, and everyone is playing with a chatbot, and you create evals based on that. Or you use another LLM where, maybe you are the lone engineer in the team. You give it 10 queries, and then you use an LLM that, generate 100 more queries. And that's your synthetic data.
Or you give it different personas.
So a lot of people, they wait a lot before evals, but I think first step of evals is simple. It's even a person in the room just firing queries. You create a data set of 20, 50, 100, and then that's a data set. And then you see how your agent responds. And maybe you manually go through it. And if you go through it manually, in half an hour, you'll realize that, okay, these are the scenarios where it does okay. These are the scenarios where it doesn't do good. That influences your thinking that, what metrics what metrics are important for me? How should I use an LLM as a judge? LLM as a judge is a popular concept, right, for evals, because human labels are expensive. I'll assume the audience knows about it. Another thing that, which I've noticed is that people immediately run to LLM as a judge. But again, there are a lot of low-hanging fruits. I'll give you an example. So LLM, so these days, we are a bit spoiled. So LLM as a judge, let's just, use as an, so you get the input, synthetic data, you get the output from the agent. Now you ask an LLM, you prompt it a bit that, okay, did this input satisfy the user intent? And it's easy, you can do that. And immediately people run to that because it's easy. But there's something which is even easier, which a lot of people miss, is a lot of time you have more deterministic, because you never know that maybe the LLM itself is making mistake, right? And then you have the final label, which is a mistake. But a lot of time there are more deterministic metrics. So I'll give you an example from food ordering. So imagine a food ordering experience. User comes in, you have the agent conversation. In the end, if the user generates a cart, and usually we send a link to the cart, then that means that conversation was amazing. It was positive,
because
right?
they bought something.
They bought something.
So the final metric that you're looking at is, did they convert or not?
Did they convert? But even, it's getting a little bit into the details, but, sometimes people come to the cart stage, but they still don't order. So there's a,
so it's not always,
yeah,
did they pay,
but I'm saying that,
was there a card?
if you think about a funnel that, a user making search, a user going couple of steps, and if you think about a later stage in the funnel, could be about making order, could be about adding to the cart, could be about something else, depending on what the use case is. But those are positive signals that this conversation actually went through different stages of funnel. And it's a deterministic metric, because I can see that, okay, I have these 100 conversations. Which of these conversations went through this stage of funnel? And that's a positive conversation.
So grab that for the evals.
Grab that for the evals. And that is so much better than using, because LLM as a judge will make mistakes. Look for those metrics, whatever those metrics are, and don't run immediately to LLM as a judge. There's a step before that. Another thing I want to talk about is, so if you look on internet and if you see advice from people out there on evals, a lot of good advice, but very soon it gets complex, where people talk about, conversation level analysis, single turn, multiple turn analysis.
Yeah. The silent failures on the agents.
Silent failure. There are a lot of eval frameworks.
Yeah.
Tool calling. Did we call the right tool?
Yep.
Did we call the tool with the right parameters? If you have multiple tools, did you go? If you can even do a state management, because maybe a user query calls 5 tools. So you can even map that, okay, from tool 1 to tool 2, did the maximum mistakes. So it can very easily blow up, and you'll be kind of paralysis analysis. You'll be scratching your hair. Often, we present these evals to business folks, and imagine, you have a meeting, and, you have these 12 different levels. People get lost, and, you lose the audience, you lose everything. So for me, for us, what we have seen when we build products at Prosus, it's like the first level of eval is very simple. It's like, this is the query from the user. This is the entire conversation, multiple queries. Maybe there are 10 messages exchanged. You use, and maybe you tried the usual metrics. Now you come to LLM as a judge. Before you go to turn-by-turn analysis, before you even look at what tools were called, just give the entire conversation to an LLM and ask some basic questions. Ask it that, did it satisfy the user intent? Did the conversation went in a direction where the agent was trying to close the order? Because in the end, you care about making a sale. And these are so simple. And this business people, they relate to it. And then an LLM will make a judgment, true, not true, partially true, and so on. And there's already so much information there. If you now see that, okay, these are the things that work, these are the things that don't work. To be honest, a lot of time our evals stop there. We don't, because there's already so much information there. There's already so many things for us to fix based on what doesn't work, that we never go to level 2. Because level 2 is, tools. Did you call it's
So there's almost like a hierarchy.
Yep.
And in your eyes, the hierarchy is first and foremost, there's like looking at the metrics of, did they try and actually make the sale?
Yeah.
Because that's our top level metric that we're trying to affect the needle on.
Yep.
That's really all that matters at the end of the day. So if the agent isn't closing,
Yep.
then
Yeah, totally.
you got to be, who was it in The Color of Money? What was that? Who's the actor that was in it? You got to always be closing, and you got to teach your agent, put that in the prompt.
Yeah.
So,
yep. That's one way to look at it. But of course, on a lighter side, does the agent follow, answer so if you were the user on the other side, did the conversation went in a positive direction, or, the agent asked for a burger and you give them pizza? So did it satisfy the user intent? Did it go in the right direction?
So those are like very strong evals that you need to be focusing on first. And then if you need to, then you can start peeling back the layers. Like, did it call the right tools?
Yep.
Did it use the right parameters when it called the right tools?
Yep. Yep.
I can see that.
Yep.
It's almost like there's an 80-20 here.
Yep.
That Preos principle.
Yeah, totally.
We've got these evals. They're going to give us 80% of the important stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only these 2 evals that we've got to look at.
Yeah, totally. So that has been our experience. So we also made this mistake where we already got into complicated evals. It doesn't resonate with business. It leads to analysis paralysis. So these days, whenever we do evals, we ask it practical business questions first. And then there's already a lot of insights there to act on. And only then there is value in going deeper.
Yeah. But it's not as actionable, I imagine.
Yeah.
And like you say, analysis paralysis, where you're like, there's so much that we need to do here.
Yeah.
Coming back and saying, is it answering the user's question? Is the user experience nice?
Yeah.
Is the metric being moved? Like the metric we care about, is it trying to move that?
Yep.
Those are very, very basic and very useful.
Yep. There are 2 more
Yeah,
lessons when it comes to evals. One is about, so at Prosus, something we do, this is a recipe that we have tried many times and it has been very successful, is labeling party. So we call it labeling party, where, we invite, you invite your team, you invite some stakeholders. It's important to invite, business folks as well. You get 15 people in the room. You order some pizza. That's why it's a party. It's important. You book 1.5 hours. You spend time with these people to actually go through real conversation. And then this is what the agent responded. Now, if imagine, and then the question you ask them is that, imagine you are the user on the other side. And then you ask a couple of these questions that, okay, did the conversation go in the right direction? Did it try to close the order? And a couple of other things. Did it kind of break any guardrails or whatever? It depends on, what the agent is trying to do. So you define a couple of questions, easy questions. So don't talk about technical stuff like tool calling and so on, business related questions. And what would come from that is that you spend 1.5 hours, and at the end of 1.5 hours, you'll have, I don't know, every person will label 10 data points. You'll have 150 data points. And when you look at that 150 data points and now run your LLM as a judge, the prompt that you wrote, and ask it to label these 150 data points, you'll see that there's a difference between what LLM says as human. Obvious, there'll always be a difference.
The human labeled data and the LLM as a judge.
And then you will see that depending on your use case, sometimes the LLM will be more lenient. Maybe the LLM always said that your agent is perfect. Or maybe sometimes the LLM would be stricter. So depending on the use case, I've seen both. But now when you see the difference where the discrepancy is between human and LLM label, you look at it, again, manually, all this is manual. And then the way to use this data is, you use this discrepancy to inform yourself that, okay, this is where the LLM is making mistake. Human is right here. Now go back to your LLM as a judge prompt. Give it examples. So few short labeling. Give it examples that when this question comes in, this is what you do. So I think often we also think LLM as a judge very easy. We just write a prompt. We expect magic to happen and get something. But our experience is you need to iterate on that prompt.
Dude, and we're going full circle. It's context engineering.
Yeah, it's context engineering. All these things are related. But you need to improve your LLM as a judge. So we do these labeling parties. we improve the prompt. We give it few short examples based on where and now your LLM as a judge, you run it again. We see that, okay, now it's closer. Earlier, they mismatched, I don't know, 30% of times. Now the mismatch is 15%. And again, you need to keep doing it every 2 weeks, do a labeling party. So that is a recipe that we have tried and it's been very successful. So
that's an actionable insight.
Yeah. And it's a manual process.
Yeah.
But
team building.
It's rewarding. It's nice as the builders of the system to sometimes look into the data yourself and
hear from the business side of the house. I
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Hey, this makes no sense.
Yep.
Why would we care about this, or
Yeah.
why would the LLM say this?
Yeah, you discover a lot of other things which you were not even maybe hoping to hear, but that happens. Last point there. It's actually kind of it's related with labeling party. So when you do a labeling party, how do you offer? It's very important how you offer people how they can look at the conversation. And this is where, for example, we use a lot of these external tools, Langsmith, Langfuse. So there are these observability tools where it captures the interaction. But at the same time, if you're looking at Langsmith trace, it's very user unfriendly. It's like, bunch of JSONs. If you have multiple tool calls, it's like, I love looking at it. I'm a technical person, but the business person gets lost. So one thing, again, which we do, which works very well, is with very low effort by using V0, Versal, and so on, you create custom annotation tool. There are standard tools as well in market for labeling data, like Label Studio. There are other tools out there. They're good. But our learning is that every use case is different. You need to visualize different things for the user. I'll give you an example. If I'm looking at a food conversation or a shopping assistant conversation, if I'm the user who's evaluating it, aside from the conversation, I also need to see that, okay, these are the items which were shown to the user at that point. These items, and I need to see it visually. Otherwise, how will I judge? These items were from these restaurants. Maybe these restaurants are open or closed at that time. Because if you don't give me that information, so annotation tool plays a big role. And what we find ourselves doing a lot is, with a couple of, it's like hacking. We just quickly put together a tool in half a day using V0 Versal, and people love using it. And then you get, the audience is much more involved than going through a trace in Langsmith. So again, it's a small point, but it makes a big difference.
User experience.
Yeah, user experience.
The UI.
Full circle.